co-authored by Jerry Acuff,
My
the
gosh.
CEO of Delta Point Consulting, is available in all major bookstores. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to make you wait any longer. Please welcome to the stage the man, the myth, Jeremy Miner.
Hey, Anthony. Hey, thanks for having me out. I'd say, Matthew, are you Matt? Here we are again.
Hello.
Shake and
How
bake.
are you, sir?
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake, baby.
Look, say one more time.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake,
Right.
baby.
We're in a good mood today, people. Who's ready to learn some sales?
Who
right?
wants to sell more?
Never me in the chat if you want to sell more. You could sell less, but no one's come to us for that yet. Maybe they will.
No,
maybe
no,
that's
typically
maybe that's what we need to do to
worse.
crack that underwater basket weaving, right? We just got to teach people to sell less.
We could
That's how we
sell,
get into that industry.
we train them how to sell less, and then then they want to sell more.
Exactly. That's get them on the left, get them on the right.
Right. All right. We are ready to roll. Now, mark your calendars. We will go for 2 hours straight, I can assure you. So we will end at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will go 2 hours straight. Now, here's what I'll do, because a lot of you probably, I'm just the boring guy here. You might not know, maybe you thought I was just born with superhuman tonality ability or questioning skills, and it magically just, was from the planet Kryptonite or something. None of that is actually reality. So what I'll do is I'll give you a little bit of my background just for the next couple minutes, because my background, I would say most would say would be necessary if you want to take your sales ability, like, what you're doing now, even if you're doing well, to like a level that most salespeople just don't think you'd even get to, like I can't get better. So I got into sales, Ryder knows this, 23 years ago, broke, burnout college student. And I got my first job selling home security systems door. Now in the chat, type in me if you've ever sold door to door, because that's my first job, 22-year-old broke kid. Type in me if you sold door to door. I want to know who my people are. That's where I started. And basically, a lot of if you've sold door to door, that, there's not a lot of training. They basically give you a script, and they give you a couple books by the sales gurus. And, they're like, hey, go make some sales. It's going to be easy. So they drive you out in a van. And I still remember this. They basically like kick you out of the van, and they're like, hey, good luck. We'll see you tonight. And I still remember, like, looking back, I was the last one to be dropped off. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's here. And I remember looking back at my sales manager. His name was Xane Anderson. Xane, if you're on here, I'd love to talk to you. Xane had like curly, like blonde hair, like the surfer guy. You know what I mean? And he said, yo, I still remember this, like imprinted in my brain. He said, yo, Miner, remember, when you knock on the doors, show them your enthusiasm, show them how excited you are, show them that you believe in the product, and they're going to believe it. They're going to buy from you. And I was like, that makes complete sense, right? I mean, what did I know? I'm a 22-year-old kid. And so I started knocking on doors, and I was really excited, talking about the features and benefits, and how we were the number one this, and we had the best, plan, and we had the AAA rating, the Better Business Bureau, and all these sayings. And I remember from that very first door, I started getting all these objections. We don't need it. It's too expensive.
It could be trouble.
Your price, could be trouble, right? Your price is too high. I still remember this. We already talked with someone from your company. I need to talk with my spouse. We're not interested. I need to think it over. I need to do more research. Can you call me back in a week, a month, a year later? Now, type in me if you ever lose sales from any of those objections. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I remember, there's the kicker. 7-8 weeks of this, like you're talking like nonstop rejection. Okay, you're barely making any sales. And when you're straight commission, if you don't make sales, what does that mean? That means bagels, like $0, right? If you don't make
skinny
sales,
kids. That's what that means.
You're gonna have skinny kids, right? Yeah. So I remember like struggling 7-8 weeks in. I remember standing on a corner. It was like a Friday or Saturday night. You're talking like June humidity. Who's sold in the summer, door to door? June humidity, sweat down the chest, the back, your legs completely exhausted. You know what I mean? If you've been on the doors. And I remember, I didn't sell anything that day. So I made $0. I worked 12 hours, 0 sales, $0. In fact, that entire week, I worked 60 hours. it made 0 sales, $0. And I thought to myself, you know, maybe selling just wasn't for me. You ever felt that way yourself? Have you ever noticed that you have more money going out of your bank account than you have coming in? Well, that's where I was at. Like it was not good. And I remember my sales manager actually picked us up that night and he popped in this Tony Robbins CD. Yeah, 22 years ago, people listened to these round things called CDs. It's like a miracle. And Tony said something that completely changed my viewpoint of what skills meant. And he said this. Now, Tony, if you're listening, I could be butchering it. This is what I remember I wrote down. He said, you will fail for the simple reason you don't learn the right skills necessary to succeed. You will fail if you don't learn the right skills. Now, an interesting thing happened there. He said, everyone is taught skills. In your sales job, have you been taught skills? Yes. But he said, the difference between people who are up here at the very top compared to people in the same company are the ones who were they were taught different types of skills. Okay, that there's a difference in skill level, that some skills taught by people who are far more talented just get you a much better result. And that was like, for a 22-year-old kid, that was like a light bulb moment for me, that maybe what the company was training me, what I was learning from the sales gurus, maybe they just weren't the right skills anymore. Maybe they were just a bit outdated and didn't work as well. So I committed to myself and my future family that, hey, like, you're going to have to do something different here. This is not working, because I know, like you, like me, you're here because you want to provide a great lifestyle for your family as well. But here was the dilemma that I was going through. See, I was being taught traditional selling skills from the company, and I noticed that some would work, but I also noticed a lot of what they were training didn't work that well at all. Type in me if you've ever noticed that, right? You read.
I mean, learning the wrong skills is not your fault, but what is it?
It is your
Problem.
Exactly.
Could be trouble.
Could be trouble. And so I would notice that when I would use certain techniques, I would actually notice my prospects would it was like they would clam up. Have you ever seen that, like in their body language? Like they would just like get surface level and like be aggressive to you, throw out objections. I would say certain things that they told me to do, and I would get objections every time I said it. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Now, at the same time, like Anthony was saying, I was in college. My major is behavioral science and human psychology, which is the study of the brain. How does the brain make decisions? And I was learning from my professors that the most persuasive way to communicate was over here, but the gurus in their training programs, they were basically saying it was over here. I mean, you're talking like exact opposites. So I was like, how do I take what I'm learning from behavioral science, human psychology, the way human beings make decisions, how do I wrap that into a sales structure? So how do I learn the right questions to ask that would get my prospects to pull me in, rather than me having to push or pressure? Because do you like pushing and pressuring? Do you like when salespeople do that to you? Right? So I was like, how do I learn how to use my body language? How do I use my tone, my tonality, to get prospects to let their guard down and want to open up to me? So I started on this lifelong journey. How do I learn techniques that work with human behavior, where my prospects do all the work, where the prospect sells themselves, where they overcome their own objections, and they pull me in? And when I started to acquire that, literally overnight, selling became very, very easy and exceptionally profitable. Now, why did I just tell you my story? Because you don't care about my story, do you? You only care about whose story? Your story, right? That's just human behavior 101, okay? You see, unfortunately for me, I wasn't born out of my mother's womb with advanced questioning skills. Type in me if you were born out of your mother's womb with advanced questioning skills, right? I wasn't born out of my mother's womb with advanced tonality skills. Anybody born with advanced tonality? And I especially was not born with advanced objection prevention and handling skills. Were you? Okay, I think what I hear all of you saying now, as Matt knows, is that when somebody says you're a born salesperson or somebody's a born salesperson, that's a myth. Sales is an acquired skill. So if a kid who grew up in the middle of Missouri on a cattle ranch outside of a town with less than 800 people can acquire those skills. What does that mean for you? It means you can acquire the same skills. Whatever you're doing now, you can double, you can triple, you can quadruple or more the sales that you're making now, even if you're already doing well. Right, Matthew, my friend, shake and bake?
Look, say it one more time.
Shake and bake! All right, beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the training. You might want to take notes from here on out. Now, we're going to be interactive. Me and Matt are going to be talking to you in the chats. We just love you guys. We love doing this. People call us insane, but we just like it. So let's start off by, I'm going to ask you this question. If I asked you to describe the word sales or selling in one word, what would that word be? Type it in the chat. If I should describe sales or selling in just one word, can't be two, one word, what would that word be? Love, connection, persuasion, helping, psychology,
Complicated.
pleasure.
That could be trouble.
Complicated, that could be trouble. Hard, that could be trouble. Service. Okay, those are all really good answers. What if we took everything that all of you said, we wrapped it into one word, and that word was change? That's it. That's all selling is. All selling is change, and one thing only. So whether your prospects want something better or they're moving away from pain, it's all about change. Write this down. It's about how good you are at helping your prospects view in their mind that by them changing their situation, that means purchasing what you're offering, that is far less risky for them than them doing nothing at all, staying in the status quo, their problems stay the same, and nothing ever changes. I mean, in reality, which is more risky, right? Now, here's your problem though. This could be trouble. Human beings don't like change. Let me repeat that to you, okay? Selling is only about change, yet human beings don't like change, even though we say we do. Why do we not like change? Well, we especially do not like it. It makes us feel uncomfortable when it's initiated by some pushy salesperson who's ready to pitch their services or products early in the conversation. And repeatedly, human behavior shows that we value something that is familiar to us, even if we don't like it that much, over something that is new, something that is foreign to us. I'll give you an example. Type in me if you ever have a friend, a relative, a business associate that always complains about the person they're dating, or maybe if they're married, they always complain about them. They're like, oh, they're so bad. They do this, they do that. Do you ever, type in me if that's ever happened to you. That's okay. That's happened to all of us, right? Now, when that happens to you and they keep doing it year after year after year, what do you start to think? They must be, why are they still in that relationship? You know why? Because they're afraid of what? They're afraid of change. They're afraid of the unknown. See, that's what you're going up against pretty much every prospect you talk to some degree. Okay, now, how do we help them overcome the fear of change? That's what we're going to focus on today. Okay, we're going to start here because it's all talk until you learn the right skills. So realize this, you're not selling the thing. It's very important. You're not selling the thing. You're selling the results of what that thing does. Okay. So I'll give you a few examples. Let's say if you sold life insurance, like a policy to a family, you're not selling them coverage. You're selling them the results of what the coverage does for them when one spouse dies and the other part of the family is financially protected forever, right? If you're, let's say, a marketing agency, I could do this for every industry on here. If you're a marketing agency, let's say you sell leads or branding to companies, you're not selling them leads or branding. You're selling them the results of what the leads or branding does for them, which is to scale their business, more profits for their company. If you're a real estate agent, you're not selling them a home. You're selling them the results of what the home does for them. Could be a safer neighborhood. Maybe they want more higher status, gated community. Maybe they need more rooms because they have kids now. See, that's what you're selling. If you, I mean, I could go on and on. If you sell cybersecurity to software, like to banks or companies, you're not selling them a software. You're not selling them cybersecurity. You're selling them the results. And that could be for that company protecting their customer's identity from fraud so they don't get sued or lose customers, right? If you sold solar, same thing. You're not selling them solar panels. You're selling them the results of what solar does for them. Maybe a locked-in rate, lower bill, and eventually not having a bill. That's what you're selling. See, whatever your industry is, you're selling them the results of what your thing does. Now, by the end of today, which we are going to go all the way for another hour and a half, you're going to start to understand NPQ and start to understand how to apply it. And I'm especially going to show you tonality that will help get your prospects to let their guard down and become very open up to you. Now, Matt, did we show them how to do a screen, like a split share, to make sure that they can see me while I do this rather than just a slide? Because I'm going to show them. I want them to be
Your
able
Wii
to.
tutorial.
I want,
right.
yeah, I want them to be able to see my body language and my tonality. So if you got me like in a little box,
You guys are on a phone. You're going to have to swipe back and forward, right? Because you can't do it that way. If you're on a desktop, okay, you'll see a little slider, right, that you can move over and you can make Jeremy larger or smaller. Okay. If you guys are here for the toenail clippings, feet picks, and bathwater, you might want to make Jeremy a little bit larger, right? Those will be for sale in the merch store later. But if you want to have a look and actually get the information as much as humanly possible, what you do is you make Jeremy a little bit smaller, but not too small. And then you have a nice, decent size picture next to you. So go ahead and make that adjustment now. And then from there, you guys should be able to get as much.
Make sure you do that, because I'm going to show you some different tonality and different body language. And if you got me in a little box in the corner, you're just not going to see it. You're only going to see this. All right, let's go to start.
We got a lot of people wanting feet picks, so maybe that's a little VIP bump sell we can do.
There you go. If somebody on our team can
link in the top comment
to show them how to do that to help them out here. All right, perfect. All right. Step number 1, because it's all just hope and prayers until you learn how to do it, right? As my bishop once told me, God feeds the birds, he doesn't drop worms in their nest. You got to do something, right? All right. Become a problem finder and problem solver, not a product pusher. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. Do prospects in your industry have problems and or emotional needs? Type in yes if they do. Do your prospects you talk to every day have problems and or emotional needs? Type in yes if they do. Now, see, it has to be, right? There's never been a product or service ever invented that did not solve a problem and or emotional need. Now, does a $500,000 Ferrari solve a problem? Not necessarily, unless you're a race car driver, right? Because you can drive from point A to point B with a used Kia. You don't need a Ferrari. What does a Ferrari do? Well, solves an emotional need. Maybe you want more high status, right? Maybe you want to show your neighbors that you're successful, you've arrived. Maybe you were picked on as a kid in school and you want to show your classmates like, hey, I showed you. Or maybe your dad said you would never amount to anything and she just wants to show her dad that, hey, sorry, Dad, I made it. See, there's never been something that doesn't solve a problem or emotional need. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you about 30 seconds and I want you to type in the chats the 2 biggest problems that your prospects have. So in the chat, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, no longer. Type in the 2 biggest problems that your prospects have. Budget is not a problem. That's your problem to help them overcome their
outdated software. We got
problems.
We got procrastination. We got employee retention, interest rates.
Yeah.
We've got this chat guys. This is okay.
Well, I can't even see it. It's going so. All right. So here's
there's a few problems, but a lot of them I don't think are looking at it the right way.
Yeah. All right. So when I say problems, they're problems. Like, what does your solution solve for them?
Yeah.
Problem, right? Okay.
It's to teach people a structure to sell better, so that they can provide for their families the way they want to. Does you guys do that? That's what we do.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. We might have you might have a problem. You can't overcome certain objections. We help you solve it with advanced tonality, advanced questioning. There's every product or service solves a problem.
Final expense is not that. Whoever wrote that, that is the peace of mind of not being a burden to your family. That's the problem you're solving.
Yeah. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at the 2 problems that you just typed in or that you have in your mind. And type in solution in the comments if your solution solves those. So look at the 2 problems or emotional needs you wrote in. Type in solution in the comments if your product or service or thing solves those 2 things. Oh God, we're getting like thousands of solutions here. So what I think I'm hearing all of you start to say in your mind now is that your prospects have problems and or emotional needs. Even a $50,000 purse solves an emotional need, and your solution solves those. So if your prospects have problems and your solution solves those, why are most of them not buying from you? What's the missing link? Can I make a suggestion? Okay. Are you okay if I do? See, the missing link is not your leads, even though you might think it is. It's not your mindset. It's not that you don't journal enough or meditate enough, which I love that stuff for your personal life. Not going to help you that much when the prospect says hello and you don't know what to say and ask to get them to let their guard down. It's not that you don't listen or watch enough personal development or take enough cold showers. Not that you're not motivated enough. And in fact, it's not that you don't even work hard. Type in the chat if you work hard. Type in me in the chat if you work hard. See, all of you work hard. We have salespeople that come to us from every industry, including yours, who work their butts off 12, 14 hours a day. And when they first come to us, they're completely destitute or just over broke. Has nothing to do with working hard. So if it's none of that really, I'm not saying you're going to be lazy. That doesn't make any sense either. If it's none of that, what could it be? Now, before I tell you what it could be, can I ask you a really cheesy question? Like we already know the answer you're going to give us. All right. Do you want to triple your sales that you are making now? So whatever you did in 2023, do you want to triple that? Type in me if you want to triple your numbers. Okay. Seriously, like true. I'm dead serious. Okay. Even if you're already doing well, post in triple if you want to triple. Now, post in the chat if you can triple the hours you're already working right now. Post in the chat if you can triple the hours you were already working every day right now. Probably not going to happen, right? You already work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Are you going to work 16 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 30? You can't even work 30 days. I mean, it's just unrealistic. So if you want to triple sales, what are you going to have to do? Can I suggest something? Well, you're going to have to acquire a much higher level of sales ability than what you currently possess today on Tuesday. Like we're right here, right now, January. We have to do more, right? You're going to have to learn how to sell much higher price points of your solution, right? Because if you keep saying the same things you are now, asking the same exact questions you are now, using the same tonality you've been taught how to use, what's the guaranteed result you're going to get? The one you have right now. No matter what you do, you will stay stuck where you are currently at. Would we be right? So you see, it's importantly what you're saying or not asking in your sales interactions that's triggering your prospects to not buy from you. So once we start to train you the right things to say, the right questions, when and how to ask them, I'm especially going to show you a lot of tonality today. What becomes possible for you? Well, you just make more sales than you are now. Wherever you're at, you can double that, you can triple that, you can quadruple. We've seen clients in your space do even more than that. Now, question I have for you here before we jump in. Type in me if you like to read books. Type in me in the chat if you like to read books. I actually love reading books. Like I'm a bookworm. I have over 3,000 books. I'm a crazy person. Leah, let's share that next slide there. In fact, going back, my first sales seminar that I ever went to was with Brian Tracy. Type in me if you know Brian. I'm good friends with Brian. When I first launched 7th Level by myself and my assistant Beth 5 years ago, we did our first product together. It's called the Ultimate Closers Masterclass. Great individual. I remember the thing that stuck out most at me when I was at that event is Brian said to use your vehicle as a university on wheels. What do you listen to your car while you're driving around every day? So from that day forward, I literally turned off the radio. I read or listened to 5 books a month times 12 months a year. So that is 60 books a year, right? On sales, persuasion, influence. For the next 23 years, if I've done the math right, I did it before I got in here, that's 1,384 books on sales, persuasion, influence, plus I've done over 300 170 different sales training courses, body language, and tonality. But who's counting? Now, pretty much every book you've ever read about sales says three things, right? ABCs of closing, right? Sales is a numbers game, and you have to be a what? A problem solver, which I totally agree with you. But if your prospects don't buy from you, how are you a problem solver? Would I be right? See, problem solving doesn't happen until after the transaction, until you've actually solved the problem. So if you want to sell a lot more of your thing, you want to be better at sales, you got to be much better at what's called problem finding. Now, what is problem finding? Okay, that's asking the right questions at the right time that helps the prospect in their mind uncover problems that they didn't even know they had. Because when you first start talking to your prospects, would we be right to say that most of them don't really understand what their real problems are? Or maybe they know they have a problem, but they don't understand how bad the problem really is. And they especially don't understand the consequences of what happens if they don't do anything about solving the problem, right? So what are most salespeople? Hate to tell you this, even though sometimes we don't think we are, most salespeople have been trained to do what? Well, most salespeople are product pushers. And they've been trained to ask a few logical-based questions. You ever heard of these? What problems do you have? What's your budget for this type of thing? What are you looking for in a solution? All vague questions. And then what have we been trained to do? Go into our sales pitch, talking about the features and the benefits and how we have the best this and the best that. And that's like taking a bucket of mud and like throwing it up against the wall, hoping and praying that something we're going to say is going to magically cause that prospect to want to buy. And we call that hopium. Write this down, hopium. It's a drug that so many salespeople, even business owners, take, where we just hope and pray that something on slide 35 is going to magically cause the prospect to want to buy. And that is it's a very unpredictable way to make a living. So our suggestion, don't do drugs if you want to be in the top 1% of salespeople. All right. We went over step number one, become a problem finder, problem solver, not a product pusher. We're going to get in some tactical training now. Matt, what are your thoughts? Like, you were a client 4 years ago. This is a long time ago when Seventh Up was a little baby.
Crazy.
What were your thoughts when you learned how to become a problem finder? What happened?
You know, the big thing for me was that I just started having better conversations with the prospects.
Yeah.
You know, I was always an effective sales guy because I'm a bit relentless. I'm an special forces sniper. You know, I'm someone who just kind of goes out there and gets after it. But, you know, I felt like I was in like a boxing match with the prospects all the time. I was like, come on, put up your dukes.
Here feels like you're in a boxing match every day. Type in me if you feel like you're in a boxing match where they just smash you. Sometimes you smash them back and you're just exhausted every day.
Yeah, I was worn down, run out, and it wasn't fun. And I actually thought, you know, similar to you, I was like, man, like I haven't been a sales rep for a long time. I've always been really effective, but like I just don't know if I can continue along this path because
I got to get into management.
I got headaches. You know what I mean? I had headaches. And also the big thing was I found it really hard to make the transition from sales guy and then take off that hat and then come home.
Yeah.
Right. And then be dad and be husband and not be like, you know what I mean? And just be really quick with people. My wife was like, hey man, you're kind of a jerk. Could you sort that out? Like, what are you trying to sell? You know? And so I learned a better way to communicate, and it just kind of like, it took my naturally kind of aggressive nature and just gave me the skills to be able to kind of maneuver that and play into my strengths, but also remain neutral and remain, you know, use my tonality. And that lowered all of the stress that I had in me. And it lowered all of that. It lowered my refund rates and it increased my show up rates and the connections I had with my prospects. And that just allowed me to have better conversations and be less stressed and also just be a better family man. And I also had a pretty decent, you know, boost to the old back pocket, which was good.
Pocketbook.
Right. The old pocketbook, you know, a couple more Disney holidays every year keeps the wife happy.
That's right. All right. I love that. We're going to come back to you in a minute because I got a couple more questions for you. Okay.
Yeah.
From here on out, we're going to start getting into tactical stuff. So you might want to write down some things. I'm going to show you some stuff I haven't showed you before. All right. Step number 2. This is really important for you. Asking the right questions, but at the right time and with the right tonality. We're going to focus a lot on this. Okay, so I'm going to go back to something that's going to back this up. So remember when I started talking to you about my first sales job, the door-to-door guy? That was the first industry I sold in. when I started doing that, I was majoring in behavioral science and human psychology. Remember, it's the study of the brain and how and why a person is persuaded to do something or not do something. Now, can I ask each of you how many years you've gone to sales school? Type in how many years you've gone to like sales school to get your sales education. Oh, 0. Because the sales profession is really one of the only ones you can say, hey, I'm a salesperson, and you never go through an education to be a salesperson. Do engineers have to go to school for that? Do lawyers go to school? Do doctors? Do, even a construction worker has to go through some trade school, right? Sales is the only one where school's not required. I'm a salesperson without being educated. So would we want to know how the brain makes decisions if we're in sales? Type in me if you feel that would help you have a very competitive advantage over anybody else you are competing with. Just going to go out on a limb. I have a little bit of a advantage over the salespeople I was competing with because of my background in behavioral science and psychology. You want me to transfer some of that to you today? Okay, now check this out. This is very interesting. According to behavioral science, there are 3 forms of communication. Now, I'd suggest you write these down. Once you understand the differences in where you are right now in your sales ability, even if you're already doing well, even if you're already making 6 figures or more, compared to where you could be, things will start to change for you very quickly. Now, first mode of communication is known as Air 1 type of sales. Now, I'm not going to give you the scientific term for it. It's very boring. But if I said the words boiler room selling, if I said the words boiler room selling, what's the first image that comes into your mind right now? Type in the chat if I said the words boiler room selling, what's the first image? What was the first image that you just thought of? I'm seeing a lot of answers here. Some of them are good, some of them are a little bit off. It's not a boiler like a heat thing, boiler room selling. Now, would it be something like this right here on this slide? Would that be it? Leo, right? Wolf of Wall Street, hey, I got a great opportunity for it. Then we talk about the features and benefits and what we do, and then how we have the best this and the best that, and we push them on why they need to buy and why they need to go with us. But according to the data, oh, the pesky data, we are the least persuasive when we tell people things, or we attempt to dominate them. We attempt to posture them, manipulate them, or push or pressure them to do something we want them to do. Have you ever heard the word sales is a what? Numbers game? Well, no wonder, right? When we're the least persuasive. It's just like if you told type in me if you have a teenager at home. How often does it work for you when you start telling your teenager they really, really need to do something, and then you push and pressure them? What do they typically do back? They push back. See, that's just human behavior 101. So I'm going to give you a few examples of the least persuasive way to sell. Now, can I ask you a favor? Are you going to get mad at me if I show you this? You sure? Okay, presenting, the first one. We all talk, hey, you got to have a great presentation, show them how great our services, our products are. Leah, go to the next slide. We got a 60 to 90-minute slide deck. Here's a picture of our corporate headquarters. Our windows look so cool. Here's a picture of our founders. They have the best integrity. Here's our picture of our customer service awards. We have a AAA rating at the Better Business Bureau. Wah, 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 wah. Now, do you have to have a presentation? Yes. Well, we want to make it a lot shorter. We have the best this, we have the best that, which, by the way, doesn't every salesperson say they have the best product or service? How many salespeople do you know that say, yeah, we've got the 9th best service in the market for sure? See, no one does. Everybody says they're the best. Everybody says they're the #1 market leader. So just so you know, psychologically, your prospects, even though you think it helps, when you say things like that, your prospects actually trust you less, even if you are the #1 market leader. They trust you less when you're talked down about your competitors. Why? Because they're used to every salesperson who's ever tried to sell them anything saying what? We have the best this, we have the best that. Now, do you have to have a presentation? Of course. But we want to take that down to less than 12% of your entire sales conversation. Less than 12%. Here's the problem, though. We train 161 different industries, including yours. And the data shows the average earning salesperson in every industry presents about half of the time. That could be trouble for you. All right, telling your story. Hate to tell you this, nobody cares about your story when you're selling one-to-one. Whose story do they care about? They care about their story, right? What about putting sales pressure on them? Were you taught how to do that? You see, there's a massive difference, and me and Matt will talk about it later, between getting your prospects to feel so much internal tension from your questioning ability, from your tone, that causes them to build a gap in their mind from where they are to where they want to be, compared to you putting external sales pressure on them. 9-day difference in what you make there. And here's the big one. Don't shoot the messenger. Assuming the sale, especially early in the conversation. As we get later, it's a little bit different here. But according to the data, very low on the persuasion poll. Hence, it's exactly why most of the sales trainers you've been forced to learn from say what? What's the biggest thing they tell you? Oh, don't worry about it. You're going to get lots of no's. You know, sales is a numbers game. Just call more leads, work harder. You're going to get most no's and you're going to get that one yes. Basically, what they just told you is, what we're training you, well, it doesn't really work that well. So, you know, you're just going to have to work harder. Yeah, just work more hours. Yeah, just you'll be okay. Isn't
Are people selling like that? Are people, are you guys doing that?
Isn't that selfish of them just to tell you to work more hours? How does that type of training give you any competitive advantage over anyone else? Right, Ryder? Now, you use traditional selling techniques. It can be numbers games because you're triggering your prospects to go into fight or flight mode. Now, how many of you are still selling that way? Be real here. It's not your fault.
Type of me in the chat if you're still selling that way.
Yeah, well, that could be
You
trouble.
guys tired? Are you tired of selling like that?
Tired of selling that way? See, it's not your fault, but it is your what?
Problem.
Problem, right? See, nobody's coming to save you. All right, second form of communication, consultative selling. Error 2 type of sales. We're more persuasive when we attempt to have a discussion. Now, that type of methodology came out in the late 70s, early 80s with methodologies like Sandler Institute, books like Spin Selling, Neil Rackham. That was revolutionary back 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Neil Rackham, college professor, never sold anything, by the way. But they taught you needed to ask logical-based questions to find the needs of the client. But what's a potential downfall when you only ask logical-based questions? We call those surface-level questions. Well, your prospect's going to give you what type of answers in return? Surface-level, logical answers. Do human beings buy on logic or emotion? Which one? Because brain studies show it's 100% emotion. There's no debate on this in science, okay? This is why I'm going to say something very counterintuitive. I'm going to make some of you mad. This is why you can never sell to just the needs of the client. Let me repeat that. You can never sell to just the needs of the client. Remember Steve Jobs' famous quote? Customers don't know what they need. Let me repeat that. Most of your prospects, when you first start talking to them, don't really know what they need. Would I be right? Let me give you an example of this. Now, this is for illustrative purpose only. This is not going to happen to you. Let's say you wake up tomorrow morning and you're like, oh my God, my head hurts. I've got this massive migraine. I need to go to urgent care to get some medicine. I got to get to work. You're like, what's my budget going to be? Well, I got the copay, the insurance. It's going to cost me $100, right? So you go to the doctor because that's what you think you need. You need the headache medication. That's what you think you need. But the doctor, she starts asking some very pointed questions to you about when the pain started, how long you've had the pain, where the pain is in the head, what the pain feels like, what the pain's doing to you, what the pain's preventing you from doing, other questions as well. And here's what her questions start to get you to do. You start to view her as an expert and you start to feel tension, internal tension, that you might have a way bigger problem than you originally thought you had, right? You start to feel the tension. She then suggests that you might need to do a CAT scan. You do a CAT scan, it comes back that you have a tumor and it's terminal. You've got 1 month to live. Now she says you can solve that. The solution is a surgery to remove the tumor. It's going to be a $2 million surgery and recovery. Your insurance is going to cover 90% of that. You still have to pay 200 grand. Well, you thought you only needed a $100 budget, but now what are you thinking? Well, the hell with the budget. You thought you only needed the copay and the medicine. You know what your problems are. Okay. Now you know that you need to go find the budget. That is exactly why you never sell to just the needs of the client. You sell to the real problems your question ability allows them to find that they didn't know they had. Type in me if you're with me here. Type in me if you're here. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples of some consultative questions. We train 161 instruments, including yours. We see scripts in that conference room over here with our trainers every single day. There's some bad ones, some naughty ones. So I don't want you to use these. They're very outdated. How about this one? Jim, can you tell me 2 problems that keep you awake at night? Now tell me, now, who's guilty of that question? Who's still using it? Type in me if you're okay. Some of you are like, oh, I use it. Yeah. Okay. Now some of them will open up, most won't. Oh, we got, there's surface out. Can you tell me your top 2 challenges you're having the most? I think your prospects are really going to open up and go deep from that type of stuff. See, they know what you're trying to do. They're not going to open up. Do you notice when you ask those questions, they start to say surface level, vague, generalized surface level answers? Who besides you would be involved in the decision, Amy? Oh, no, I make the decisions around here.
Do you?
Surface level.
Do you really?
Now type in me. Now type in guilty if you're guilty of one of those questions. I just got to see it. Type in guilty.
Oh, man.
Oh, you kill. We love you guys. Can we help you with this?
Sheesh kebab.
Man.
What are we doing here? As the great Anthony Vasari would say.
Yeah,
Sheesh
exactly.
kebab.
Now, let me give you an example of a way to relanguage that last question. Now, can you pay attention to my tonality, my body language here? Leah, let's show them that next slide. So instead of saying, who's the decision maker? I'm going to do what's called an NEPQ lead-in phrase. Maybe walk me through, like, what's your, I guess, company's decision-making process when it comes to solving these type of problems? What does that look like? Or how does your company's decision-making process, what does it look like when it comes to solving XYZ problems, just so I have a better understanding? Okay, that's a lead-in phrase. We'll talk more about that as we go. Now, do you ask this question here? What are you looking for in a solution? See, it's too surface level. We have to go much deeper than that. Those are abstract terms. Do you ever ask this type of question? Now, do you ask this type of question? What sort of budget have you set aside? Early in the conversation, type in me if you're guilty of that one. What sort of budget have you set aside?
Searching for them laydowns. I know how you guys work.
Here's your problem. Saying the word budget is a limit-based thinking. Budget is capped. I'd rather say funds or funding, depending on if I'm selling to a consumer or a business. And here's your biggest problem. If you ask that question too early in the conversation, now, that doesn't mean if they're saying, well, I'm homeless, is this going to cost me any money, that you don't qualify them financially? I'm not saying that. But when you ask that type of question, okay, how do they know what their budget should be when they don't even know what their real problems are early in the conversation? How can they even know? Right? So how could they even know what the budget needs to be to solve problems they don't even know they had yet? So I'm going to give you an example. You're going to reword it to this, write this down, take a snapshot of this. For heaven's sake, please take a snapshot. This is an example of an NEPQ qualifying question. So if I want to find out, so John, let's say I'm selling to a company. What type of funding do you have or have access to so that you guys can? And then I'm going to repeat back what they said they wanted. Now, if I'm selling to consumers, I'm usually, for most industries, not all, are going to use funds. If I'm selling to a company, B2B, more funding. That's like an investment. Now, it's not straitjacket. There are some industries in both where we might use funds or funding. We teach you all those questions and how to use them in your sales process in our
When you use
platforms.
Budget in a B2B, it can actually trigger the CFO objection very quickly.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'd have to ask my CFO. Yeah, exactly. See,
Because they don't know the budget, but they know the funds they have allocated.
Exactly. So more persuasive than the first mode, but we're still having to play the numbers game because you're not bringing out very much emotion by asking surface level questions. All right, third mode, and then we're going to get into some questions and some tone. Third mode of questions is dialogue. Okay, we're the most persuasive when we get others to persuade themselves. When we ask, here's that word again, neuro-emotional persuasion questions. Now that stands for NEPQ. Now, are you asking me this right now? Hey, Jeremy, that sounds good, but how do I get prospects to persuade themselves? Is that what you're asking? Type in yes. Do you want to start to learn how to do that today? Are you going to master that today? No, I'm going to give an introduction, right? Okay. Now, here's what I want to ask yourself. Are you a 1, 2, or 3 era salesperson? Are you boiler room selling? Are you consultative selling? Or are you NEPQ? Because before you can change your situation, you first have to what? Know how you got here in the first place. Now, our data shows we've surveyed salespeople that we train at our events and our virtual training programs. Error number one, we just push them, pitch them, assuming the sale, boiler room selling, sell on the opportunity, mainly taught in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, some 80s. 73% of you, who's guilty, are still pushing, pitching, assuming the sale, doesn't matter the industry. 73%. Now, second mode, consultative selling, came out in the late 70s, 80s, 26%. Third mode, the most persuasive, according to behavioral science, getting the prospect to persuade themselves, is less than 1%. Because from what we understand, no one really before us, maybe unless you know someone else, knew how to tie in human behavior, the way the brain works in a step-by-step sales process. So here's your challenge with that. If you're still using error 1 or error 2 techniques that work against human behavior, that trigger sales resistance, but today's buyer doesn't want to be talked at and sold to. They want to be asked, they want to be heard, and most importantly, they want to be understood. You see the friction of why you're not where you want to be as a salesperson in your industry yet. Now, I said yet, because these are acquired skills. Has nothing to do with what you look like. Your hair color could be red, black, blonde, purple, bald. None of that matters. Big, tall, short, chunky, skinny, like a bean. I've seen it all. The only thing that matters is what you're saying, what you're asking, and how your tone and body language that's going to set you apart or not. Now, let's do this. Yep. All right. What's the mood in the audience here? What do
It would
they
feel good. I feel like we got to get a little pump to chat up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, let's pump it up. Give me one thing that you guys have learned so far. Give me one little nugget. I've seen a lot of people say some nuggets. All right, let's see what we got. All right.
Let's see
What era are you selling? Okay. Selling has changed. Tonality matters. Stop asking some of those questions, for goodness sakes. Good
Be
Lord.
trouble. We're going to show you
Shish
some
kebab.
questions to ask right now. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next slide, Leah.
All right, let's do it.
Here's what we're going to start with. Selling is not adversarial. Okay. Let's start here. It's not you against a prospect trying to win them over so you can make a commission. That way of thinking has kept you where? Right here. You want to be a top 1% salesperson in the industry. You have to view selling as collaborative. It's you working with the prospect to help them find and solve problems. Now, when I talk about NEPQ questions, I want to be very clear. I am not talking about the same predictable questions that every salesperson since the first man and woman on this earth have been taught to ask, okay? I'm talking about questions that raise your status in your prospect's mind and how they view you. So here's what I'm going to ask you. How do you get your prospect to view you right here, at a much higher status, or at least equal theirs when you first start talking, and eventually much higher than theirs in what you're talking about, where they view you as the expert, the trusted authority? Now, in behavioral science, this is called social dynamics. Write this down. Now, here's what I'm going to do for you. Should I show you just two? I'm only going to show you two. There's probably hundreds. We don't have time. I'm going to show you two very predictable questions most salespeople ask that actually lowers your status, and you don't even know it's lowering your status. Because in society, how are salespeople viewed at large? Lower status, right? You could be making $400,000 a year, and grandma's saying, "Hey, when are you going to get a real job?" Right? Lower status. Does a teacher ask kindergartners if they want to be in sales? No, it's viewed as a lower status.
They
Now,
throw tomatoes at them.
they throw tomatoes. So who wants to be like, stop getting the tomatoes thrown at you? Okay. Now, are you sure you want me to show you these? Because here's my concern for you. If I show you these, I'm only going to show you two. If I show you these, when you get on your next sales call or appointment, or virtual or in person tomorrow, you know what's going to go through your mind? You're going to question yourself. You're like, I thought this was building rapport, but I don't know if it's doing that now. So I'm a little bit concerned if I show you this, it's going to mess with your mind. Type in me if you want me to show you this, because you have really two options.
Careful.
You can you ever see The Matrix? Type in me if you've seen The Matrix. You know, the blue pill, red pill thing. So you can just stay with the blue pill. You don't have to know any of this. Just keep doing what you've always done because somebody told you to do it that way. Or you can take the red pill. like right now. Change
Take the
everything
protest.
starting right now
Take
and
the pill.
start doing 2, 3, 5 times the numbers you're doing right now. So type in red pill to change or blue pill. I'm just going to wing it. Stay the same. Hope and pray it works out. Take the
Shooting
hopium
from the
drug.
hip. Shooting from the hip.
Shooting from the hip. All right.
Got a
we
lot
got-
of people. Dave, Jane, April, Annette, Alex. All taking that red pill. Good for you.
all taking the red pill. They want to do. Okay. So when you ask questions like this, hey, how are you doing today? How's your day going over there? Oh, did you see the game last night? Oh, how's the weather over in Atlanta? See, when you use those type of questions at the beginning of a sales call, most of your prospects, unless they're laydowns, they interpret it like you interpret when salespeople ask you these questions. I'm just trying to get you to like me so I can sell you my product or service or thing. Would I be right when salespeople ask you, hey, how you doing today? You don't genuinely believe they are interested in how your damn day's going. Would I be
How's
right?
the local sports ball team?
Yeah. Do you believe your prospects believe you really give a damn about their day? See, they know you don't because every salesperson they've ever talked to asks what type of predictable questions. How you doing today? How's your day going? How's the weather over there? And some type of story. Now, even
You
if
know why it's called small talk, Jeremy? Because the
Too
people who use it have
small.
small commission checks.
They have
That's
small
why.
commission checks. Could be trouble for it. Now,
Could be trouble.
now look, I've been at a couple events and I've had people come to say to me like, no, Jeremy, you don't understand. I really am genuinely interested in my prospect's day. I'm like, I'd be highly suspicious if you're interested in every single lead's day you've ever talked to. I'm just going to go out on a limb there. Your prospects don't believe you are. Now, should I show you a few NEPQ questions to use that will raise your status in your prospect's mind on the flip side? Type in me if you want these.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. We just end it right here before we get
Yeah.
into any tactical training. The rest of the training, the rest of 50 minutes, all tactical.
You could just speak to your prospects about the local sports ball team and how the weather is. Or you could
ask them if they
make
have
a
2
sale.
minutes to talk. You could tell them you like to fish too, if they like to fish.
Hey, I know I'm interrupting your day, but and I'm really sorry, but have you got 2 minutes to hear about my product or service?
But
I have skinny children. Yeah.
very skinny kids. So we don't want you to have skinny kids. We want you to have like good, good kids, not too fat because that's not good either. We want you to have good kids. All right. Now, in this example, let's say you get on Zoom. I'm just going to give you an example. You get on Zoom or you make a call or you meet them in person. Could be B2C, B2B, it doesn't matter. And they ask you, not you, but they automatically ask you like, hey, how you doing today? Now, what would most of you say if a prospect just straight out asked you, how are you doing today? Most of you would just say, oh, I'm doing good, or I'm really excited to be here. I'm doing great. And that's okay. It doesn't really hurt you. It doesn't really help you. So we're going to show you how to do something that helps you let their guard down, where they actually feel like you're a real human, not a sales robot, and they kind of laugh and open up. So let's say the prospect says, hey, how you doing today? Here's a first one. Oh, just hanging out, being boring over here. What about you? You being boring over there? Now, what type of tone did I just use? That's a playful tone. Now, if I didn't use a playful tone, what if I did it like this? Just hanging out, being the boring guy over here. What about you? You being boring today? Whoa, he's kind of boring. There's something's going on. But do you see how my tonality, write this down. Your tone is how your prospect interprets the intention behind what you're saying. That's how they interpret the meaning behind what you're saying. Oh, just hanging out, being boring. What about you? You being bored over there? Oh, I'm sure you're not being boring. That's exactly what they're going to say. Now, what does that do? It's a technique to help get their guard down. All right, you want another one? Hey, how you doing today, Jeremy? Oh, just trying to stay out of trouble. What about you? You getting in trouble over there, John? Oh, no, I'm not getting in trouble. I'm sure you're just joking. See? Playful tone. Write that down. That's a playful tone. Okay. How about this one? Type in me if you're bald. Type in me if you're bald. I gotta do this one because I had some back when I was in my sales career. I had some people I was trading. They were like all bald, and I'm like, guys, you got to use this to your advantage. Let me help you with this.
The rumors are that I'm bald, but I'm not. I just like hats. I'm not bald, children.
I thought you had implants. I thought you had implants.
Beautiful, luscious 40-year-old hair.
Just luscious 40-year-old hair.
Not
Okay,
as good
so
as minors, but
hey, how you
Okay.
doing today? Just surfing the web, looking for a better hairspray. What about you over there? Oh, yeah, I remember when my uncle went bald. I used to make fun of him all the time. Now that's if they can see you. If they can't see you, the bald thing wouldn't work. See, these type of, now we train you a lot more of these in our virtual training center. Those just a tip. Write this down. Take a picture. Now, if I said that in a boring tone, oh, just surfing the web looking for a better hairspray. What about you? Whoa, weird. Okay, see, the tone is, if you learn tonality, that's where you're going to make sales. Okay, now you want some more examples of this? Should I just stop? We'll just give you the boring guy thing. Okay,
do this the whole time.
let's keep going. All right, so in this example, let's say that you had a great call with a prospect. Okay, type in me if you've ever had a great call with the prospect. Everything went smooth. You booked another appointment, and then they started ghosting you. You left them voicemails, text, emails. Type in me if you ever get ghosted with somebody you've already talked to, you had a second appointment, they just ghosted you. Type in me. Now that's a downstream issue. We don't have time to train in that. We can help you with that. If you're a client, you know how not to get that to happen, how to prevent that. But I'm going to give you a Band-Aid. And then you call them and say something like this. Hey, you leave a voicemail. Hey, Jim, it's Jeremy. Hey, I know we talked a few weeks ago about you guys being interested in an XYZ service. Can you please call me back when you have time? Type in guilty if you've done something like that. If you've ever said, can you please call me back when you have time? Type in guilty. See, the problem with your mom saying you have to be polite to strangers and say please is, in a business world, please call me back is a needy statement. It shows that you are desperate, which lowers your status in your prospect's mind. It's like you're begging them to call you back. But here's the thing. Who has the problems? You or the prospect? The prospect. You're not the one that has the problems. The prospect does. Who has the solution to solve those? You do. So why are you qualifying to them? Why are you begging them to call you back? Why not get them to pull you in and want to call you back? Why not raise your status where they view you as an expert? When you use words like when you have time, do you know what the prospect interprets that as subconsciously? It means you value their time far more than they should value your time. That could be a problem for you. All right, now, you with me? All right, so I'm going to show you how to reverse this. Let's say you email them because you've already left 2 or 3 voicemails. You left a couple emails. They have not gotten back with you. Type in me if this is you. Called a few times last week. Now, here's what I'm going to show you to do. Let's say you email them back. I want you to literally write this down word for word. Now, don't put high status because that would be weird. So in the email, you're going to say, hey, John, or hey, Sally, I called a few times last week and left a few voicemails, but we didn't hear back from you. Then you're going to go down 2 lines to separate it and just say, where should we go from here? Question mark. That's it. Do not fluff it. Don't say anything else. Don't say, I'm so excited to hear from you. Don't say anything else. That's it.
So I use this all the time and this works. And I had a very recent, this is the 10th of January. And I am selling someone very large, quite a large company, which you're doing the keynote for. Anyway, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, 5 days, no reply. Sent that exact thing 23 minutes later. 23 minutes later, got the reply. I apologize. Been trying to get a hold of the owner. Has been challenging to see if we can get on a meeting. Not a problem. Then from there, we had a meeting a day later. The signed, still delivered, good to go. That works every time.
If you guys are like pushy, crazy, like out of control in the sales call, is that going to work as well? No, because they're like, this guy or lady's a crazy person. But if you start showing you what we do, you're going to notice 7 out of 10 of these people respond back, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I've been so busy, or my mom went to the nursing home, thanks for getting back to me. Or they might even say like, hey, my firm decided to go a different direction. But at least you're back engaging with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see what I'm talking about?
It's a brilliant strategy.
Well, there you go. So, suppose
you know a thing or two, Minor. I have to say, you do. You know a thing or two.
Since we have 19,000 plus testimonies in 3 years, might be a good thing. You see, here's what I'm talking about. The questions we're talking about, which I've just given you a few samplers here. It's like we haven't even got to the hors d'oeuvres yet. They are not designed to get people to say what you want them to say or surface level questions. See, the questions we're going to talk to you about, we're going to show you some more here in a second, are intended to bring out your prospect's emotions, to trigger what's called emotional drivers. Write down emotional drivers to get them into what's called their emotional state. Now, are you asking me, that sounds really scientific, Jeremy. How do you get a prospect to get into their emotional state? You want us to show you this? Should I show you the NEPQ sales structure? That, see, I use this. When I was in sales like you, I had a 17.5-year sales career. Do you know how much I made in commissions? I was straight commission in 4 completely different industries, 2 B2C, 2 B2B. Okay, I made a little bit under $33 million in straight commissions, 0 salary in 17 years as a W-2 or 1099, just a rep like you. Now, who cares about me? This is the same structure that thousands of our clients are using, and they're doubling, tripling, quadrupling sales, sometimes even more. Okay, eliminate tons of rejections, stop losing deals, same exact industry as you are now watching me and Matt. Now, I do want to have a disclaimer here. I just want to make sure for a few of you that are like, oh, I only increased sales by 12%, Jeremy. You're a waffler. See, I want to make sure you understand our clients who are putting up these numbers. So when you see testimonials from our clients, they are putting in the work to acquire that sales ability to do that.
Serious work.
Like serious work.
Dedication.
This is big boy and girl stuff, right? Like a neurosurgeon, a doctor, an attorney, professionals, basketball players, they put in serious work. That's why they get paid all the money, right? They have knowledge you just haven't acquired yet, right? So they go through our virtual training programs daily. They get on weekly training calls with our sales trainers and Matt and I and all of our people. They role play. They apply what we train them. In no way is going to guarantee that you're going to get the same results, because we have no way to guarantee that you're actually going to do the training, that you're going to apply it or put in the time to acquire those skills. So in order,
Have you ever heard the term "heavy is the head that wears the crown"?
I have from you.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's because crowns are made of gold and jewels, but what it is, it's the burden of responsibility that the king or queen or the person wearing the crown bears. And when you're the one who's doing the thing and you're responsible for the outcomes, then you have the burden of responsibility.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you need to do to carry that burden and put yourself in a position to be able to succeed? And that's what the people who put the work in do. They take on the responsibility.
Yeah. See, we're going to train you that selling is not necessarily a numbers game. Top salespeople, like our clients in your space, they view it as a skills game. Type in me if you like the NBA. Do you watch basketball? I love basketball. I know Matthew does. He's a big Golden State Warriors fan. Let's take Steph Curry, Matt. Steph Curry. Can you imagine if Steph Curry back in high school was like, oh yeah, basketball's a numbers game. Yeah, just shoot it as many times as you can. Yeah, you'll hit 1 out of 20, no problem. Well, if Steph thought that, he would have never took the time to develop the techniques. He would have made his varsity basketball team, let alone a Hall of Famer. No, Steph knows, every professional knows in any industry, that it is a skills game. See, Steph's focused on his technique. That's why he practices every day.
93% free throw shooter.
Yeah, his hand movements, his elbow, his wrist, his legs. See, he understands it's a skills game. Right? Are you with me here, everybody? Now, if you are committed to learning the skills, type in committed in the chat right now. Type in committed. I want to see who's committed and who's not. I mean, it has no impact on us if you don't start acquiring these skills. Who does it impact? Well, it impacts you, right? Okay. All right, Lee, let's pull up that NEPQ chart real quick. I'm going to go over this for like 1 minute, and then we're going to get into some really tactical stuff. So what we're going to do here, this is the NEPQ, the 5 steps of NEPQ. You got the connection stage, the engagement stage, transition stage, presentation stage, and the commitment stage. So we're going to give you each day. And as we go forward, day 2, I'm going to give you even more than today. Day 3, I'm going to even give you more than day 2. Day 4, day 5, I'm going to keep giving you more. Okay. So we're going to give you some generic ones so you can see the format. And we're also going to give you some industry specific ones. Okay. Far more tomorrow than today, and on and on. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Let's go to the next slide. How many of you get a call from a prospect? Here's your first one. Write this down. or you get an email that says this: we really like your company and your presentation and what you covered, but we decided to go with XYZ company. Hey, stay in touch though. Leah, can you go to the next thing right there? Yeah. Okay. We really liked your company and your presentation, but we decided to go with this company. Stay in touch. Type in me if you get this. Type in me. Anybody get this? Okay. Now, what do you do now? Do you try and prove to them why they should go with you? But John, you don't understand. That company's horrible. We're better than this. We're the #1 market leader. How often do you win those deals? If you're really honest with yourself. Very rare, right? Now, do you want me to show you how to win back most of those deals? Well, I can show you, I can tell you so many stories of companies when I sold in B2B that would do this to me. And 5 minutes later, it was going into legal. And a week later, I'd get $100,000 commission off one sale. But if I didn't know how to do that, I wouldn't have got that, right? You want to learn? All right. Now, this is an example of an NEPQ consequence question. So what you're going to do, let me see if I can get the right tone here. Got to get a drink of water. All right. So let's say they say that and you call them. I would call them first. It's better on the phone because they can hear your tone. And if you can't get a hold of them, you'll have to email them. Let's go to the next thing there. Say you're going to call them. Hey, Sally. Hey, not a problem. I got your email. I mean, look, XYZ company. I mean, they're a fairly decent firm. Can I ask you something though? Sure. Go ahead, Jeremy. Well, this is hard. How can I communicate to you that you might be making a mistake without you getting upset with me? What do you think they're going to do? Nope, you cannot communicate to me that I might be making a mistake. They're all going to be like, sure, what's going on? Now, let me do that again. I want you to pay attention to my tone. Hey, Sally. Yeah. Hey, not a problem. You guys are great. Got your email. Totally understand. I mean, XYZ, I mean, they're fairly decent firm. Can I ask you something though? Sure, go ahead. Well, how can I guess, communicate to you that you guys might be making a mistake without you getting upset with me? Now, type in what my tone sounded like. What type of tone did I just use there? What did that come across? A concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. Remember, your tone is what? Your tone is how the prospect interprets the intention behind the question you're asking. Now, why would I use what did I just seed in their mind? Did you look where my hand was, where I leaned in and I said, without you getting upset with me? Do you know what I just did? That's a body language technique. Because if I'm like, without you getting upset with me, communicate something different. But if I lean in, now, if I'm on the phone and they can't see me, would I still do that? Yes, because your body language affects what? Your tonality, right? They're always going to say, sure, what's going on? Now you're back and re-engaged in a lost deal that quite literally 99.9% of salespeople would have never got that prospect back. If you want to earn 2, 3, 4 times what you are, these things matter. Do they matter? Right now, did you notice? Why would I say, I mean, they're a fairly decent company? Type in, why would I say that? Why wouldn't I say they're a really good company? Or why wouldn't I say, yeah, they're trash, they're horrible, they suck? When I say, yeah, I mean, they're fairly decent, what am I seeding there? What did I just seed? Because I used the concerned tone when I said, I mean, they're fairly decent, I seeded doubt in their mind that the company they chose is not that good without trashing the company, which would have done what with most prospects? Triggered sales resistance. Are you type in me if you understood what I just did there? Okay. See how I'm seeding doubt in the brain without triggering sales resistance simply by using my tone. Type in tonality if you want to start acquiring that skill. A lot of people ask me, Jeremy, how did you make millions of dollars a year in commissions when the average salesperson in your industry was making less than 60 grand a year. How are you making that in a week? I'd say probably 70% of it was the advanced tonality that I learned how to do. So type at me if you want to learn that. All right, we just went over number 2, asking the right questions at the right time in the conversation. Now, good for you. Good for you. You stayed on this long because here's what I do. Matt, you know I'm guilty of this. I always save the most tactical training the last 30 minutes to see who's committed and who stayed on the entire training. So there was 189 people that were on the beginning that have dropped off. There's still thousands of you on here. Those 189. Matthew, can we hear the sound?
Could be trouble.
Could be trouble for them.
All right. Now we've given the canapes, right? We've given a couple of little starters,
I think we're gonna
right?
have to
Let's get some more what they call substantial hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, let's give a little bit more.
Let's get the sliders out. Who wants the sliders? Go on.
Who wants the
Hashtag
sliders now?
sliders. If
We're
you guys want some sliders, you guys are sick of the little shrimp cocktails, right?
Tomorrow we're going to be serving a little bit of drinks. Thursday
Bit of Jeremy juice.
we're going to get into a little bit more of the dinner.
Maybe.
Friday maybe it's some dessert. Saturday,
Ooh.
big special surprise. Now, here's the deal. This step that we're about to show you is probably the most important thing if you want to go from whatever you're doing now to like you're talking about being the top 1% in your industry, not even the top 1%, but like the top 1% of the top 1% in your industry. Who wants to be the top 1% of the top 1% with what you sell right now? Because it's not like you can't. It's not like the person who was born that way. And that is step number 3. Leah, let's pull it up. Shebang, shebang, shebang. Eliminating sales resistance with your tonality. All right. See, here's the thing. It's all about neutralizing the hidden pressure that you're having with your conversations with your prospects that causes them to let them guard down. So we have to, if you've ever heard me say anywhere, like if you're a client, all this times 10 billion, but if you're not, you have to disarm the prospect from the very first words out of your mouth through the discovery process to the end of the close. Doesn't matter if you sell B2C, 1 call close, 2 call close, or if you sell B2B or B2G with multiple calls with longer sales cycles. We are continually asking the right questions with the right tone that causes the prospect to want to engage, to want to open up with us because we know how to build massive trust. Now, we call that the ABCs of selling. Always be disarming. See, when you learn how to detach yourself from the neediness, oh, you know what I mean? Okay, who's guilty in here? Who's felt the neediness when you're on a sales appointment, virtually or in person on a call, and you felt like you could feel the neediness inside of you? Type in needy if you felt that way. Who's guilty of it? Okay, well, we've all been guilty in the past, right? But you want me to show you how not to be able to feel that way? Because you're not born with that, okay? Because what goes on psychologically in your prospect's mind is when you learn how to detach yourself, it causes them to feel more open to you. It causes them to feel more comfortable in telling you the truth about what their real problems are and their situation. They build trust. People buy. Some of you are going to get angry at me right now. I'm just getting prepared for this. People buy, or companies buy, from the salesperson or company who they trust can get them the best result. They don't buy just because they like you. Jeremy, you said the mortal sin. Dale Carnegie, 1936, people buy from people they like. Well, it's not 1936. It's 2024. Prospects are much different. Social media, the power of the internet. If they like you, that's just a bonus. You love grandma, but you're not necessarily buying from grandma if some complete stranger you feel can get you a better result. You're going to buy from the complete stranger. You love your neighbor who owns the local hardware store. You really like Jim. You hang out, you bowl with him, but you're still buying what he sells. Let's say if he's runs a shop that he sells tools, well, you're still buying tools from Amazon. You don't love Amazon or Jeffrey Bezos, maybe you do, but you feel like they can get you a better result. You trust they can get you a better result. Now, if they like you, that's just a bonus. But they buy because they trust you can get the best result, not necessarily just because they like you. Okay. So when you use words, we're going to start showing you.
No one's
that are-
buying insurance from their smacked out cousin. You know what I mean? Like,
They're gonna buy-
it could be trouble.
Could be trouble.
You're gonna
right?
go with the guy who looks the part.
Yeah. So Matt, I wanted to ask you, like, what happened when you came to me? I remember when you came to me 4 years ago and you're a client. This is when seventh level was like teeny tiny.
Oh, baby.
You were talking about like, man, I got all these refunds, my show ups. What happened?
Oh, mate. Unbelievable. I
Yeah.
was so I was doing like business consultancy services for I was selling that for like larger building companies. So
Yeah.
I was dealing with like sort of like successful business owners, but they're all like builders.
Yeah.
Right. And so some of them were on the tools, off the tools, and they were all mainly like Australian, and they were quite rough. Like, g'day, mate, here's a going. Like proper like outback
Nice,
Aussie
yeah.
kind of
Rock
dudes like,
on.
yeah, mate, that's not a knife. This is a knife type stuff. Right. And so you know, pretty kind of like alpha-y environment, which I'm fine in, you know what I mean? But you know, the way that I was the way that I was selling it was like I was pretty aggressive, and I was even taught to like financially pre-qualify. And this is what I would say. And I couldn't figure out why. I had like a 40% show up rate to my second call, which is my closing call. And they were like, this is what you have to say.
60% just didn't show up, even though they had problems. Yeah.
No, I had 80 of these front end calls a week, and then I would book about 60 of them through, and like 20 of them would show up.
Like,
right.
what?
So I'm sitting there with like 40 hours a week worth of like useless time in my diary. Like I got two kids. And this is what they told me to say. And I'd love you guys to know. They go, hey, at the end of the next call, you know, I'm going to ask you to make a decision. It can be yes or no. That's totally fine. We just don't do maybe. So, you know, if we make sense, then we can move forward. Like, is that fair? They would go, yeah, of course, man. That's totally fair. And then we'd book the call. Ghost.
Ghost.
Right? Like, ghost. Never, ever. Never, ever did they ever show up.
Yeah.
You know, but and then from there, you know, I learned to ask like, you know, like similar qualifying questions, but like, you know, are there any resources allocated to being able to get X and Y? And they're like, oh yeah. And you're like, okay, cool. And so, you know, and like, you know, like, can you walk me through like an ideal criteria of what you're looking for within a consultancy program so that you can ensure that you get from X to Y? That way I knew I had a rough idea. They had some resources. I knew what they wanted, which had the same effects. My show up rate went from 40% to 80%.
Did that possibly make you more sales? Just going to go out on a limb. Did it make you more sales?
1 or 2 a day. Yeah. It was ridiculous. And I was told by these dudes anyway. So, you know, and now like, you know, 80% show up rate, if you're doing that is like that seems reasonable, you know? And so it's just that not only was it like the ability to, you know, sell more, make more money, but it was the utilization of time. I got 2 little kids, you know, this is what I always tell people. The best thing about little kids is they're little for a long time, right? It's like, no, it goes quick. So it's like, I want to utilize the 40, 50 hours a week I'm going to work.
Yeah.
To like, if I'm going to be away from them, it needs to make sense. I can't be sitting there for 30 hours a week.
If you're going to be away with them, you don't want to do free consulting. You want to actually make money for the family, right? It would only make sense. So
yeah,
it's amazing.
There you go.
That, like, you're like, I think I got it. I think I've took the red pill. I remember when you called me, like, I got the red pill. I understand this now. Like, boom. You're already doing well. I think you made like 20 grand a month, which is
I was doing about 20, 25. Yeah.
But then you went to like 100 grand a month. I'm like,
yeah,
that's the difference. It's a little bit different.
And I was not selling the same thing to the same people in the same team. Just everyone turned up, and so I was able to like I had so much more opportunity just because I was selling in a smarter way at the beginning. You know.
Exactly. And that's what I'm going to ask each of you. Imagine how it would be if your prospects didn't feel sales pressure. Even that statement that Matt did before that he was used to taught, even though it's not horrible, most of them are still going to feel the pressure. Even though like, yeah, fair enough. They just don't show up. Okay.
But they're being asked to like before any context, like nobody wants to have to make a decision, but they have to now. And so if they're not having a good day, if they're a little bit overwhelmed that day, they're like, oh, man, I know that I have to make a decision. I have to have a bit of conflict or whatever. They're going to avoid it. It's just easier that way.
Now, we're not saying you're like, well, if you're interested, get back to us. You're not going to make any sales that way either, right? But we're going to train you starting right now. Next 23 minutes. I'm going to give you some examples of how to disarm the prospect, even in the first 7 to 15 seconds of any sales conversation you're in. I'm going to show you how to avoid sales pressure because you know it. Who's guilty? When your prospects feel sales pressure, even for the beginning of a conversation, what do they do? Type in guilty. If you notice when you ask questions, your prospects give you vague, generalized, surface level answers. And then at the end, they say, I want to think it over. I want to do more research. I want to keep looking around. I need to talk to my spouse. I need to go back to my boss. Type in guilty if that's you.
But Jeremy, it's the leads, it's the economy, it's
It's the leads. It's the
everything else but
economy.
me.
No, nothing but else but me. So let's start with this example, one I know you probably get quite a bit. How do you react when the prospect says let's say you call or you talk with them and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, why should I go with you? Like, we already use a company for that. Let's say you cold call. Type in cold call if you cold call. Because
Oh,
if
we
you
love
cold
cold
call
calls.
the
We
wrong
love it.
way, a lot of times the prospects are gonna be like, well, why should I go with you? We already use a company for that. Okay. How do you take that pressure from your response? How do you take the pressure out? How do you get them to let their guard down? Okay. So let's take a look at this. What would the average response be from an average salesperson if they heard something like this? I'm going to give you an industry specific example. Let's say if you sold life insurance. Matt, I think this is the second or third largest industry we train in the world, right? Thousands.
It's big. Train
It's
a
one
lot of people.
So what would the average salesperson say? Well, why should we go with you? We already have coverage. Well, you should go with us because we've been rated the #1 company. We've got the best pricing. We have the best coverage. We got the best customer service. Our owners are the best integrity. We've got a AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. That's what we say, right? We try to prove them. We try to prove them by listing features and benefits and hoping and praying that something we're going to say is going to stick. Type in me.
Who's got two thumbs and doesn't care about those answers? Every prospect.
Exactly.
Right?
So instead of trying to tell them and prove to them why they should go with you, why not find out why they even asked the question in the
Hold
first
on, let me go potty.
behind the question. So let's test you. You want to play a game? Let's play a cool game here. Me and Matt love games. We're both
All right.
really sarcastic in different ways. So let's test the difference. So we'll show you how this can work for you. So in this example, I'm going to give you an industry example, industry specific, so you can see how it looks. And then we're going to show you a generic example format so you can plug in your industry. Now, there's going to be tweaks, of course, to this, all right? Depending on your industry. We train you all this in our virtual training platforms if you're a client. So like I said, in this first example, let's say if you sold life insurance. So here's what I have you do. Take a deep breath. I want you to close your eyes. And when you feel the sales pressure go out of the room, I want you to type in, wow. Now don't do it yet. I got to get a drink of water. I'm a little bit thirsty over here.
Gotta keep that. Gotta keep the money mouth. Right? Gotta keep the money mouth hydrated. Right?
Now this is called an NEPQ disarming probe. Write that down. It's a disarming probe. Matt, you want to be the prospect?
Yeah, for sure. So you want to go first? Yep. Okay. So like, why should we go with you?
Well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. We'd have to understand more about, what you have in place now that would actually like pay for the mortgage and the expenses, like when you do pass, just to see if we can do something good for you. Because in reality, Matt, you might not even need us. I mean, what do you have in place now for Cindy when you do pass away? Stop there. Let's do that over again. My tone's a little bit off. Do that again, Matt.
Well, I mean, like, why should we go with you, Jeremy?
Well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. We'd have to understand more about what you have in place for Cindy and the kids, like to pay the house payment and the expenses when you pass, because, realistic, you might not even need coverage from us. I mean, what do you have in place now for Cindy when you pass away? See how I slide into that?
Do you know what also my favorite part about it is?
Yep.
It's the truth.
True. Now, let's say they say this early in the conversation. They wouldn't say this at the end. It'd be much different if they did, but you wouldn't say that at all. Now, let's do this generic example. This is a generic example. Same thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, Jeremy, like, why should we go with you?
Well, maybe you shouldn't. In fact, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. We'd have to understand more about what you guys are using for XYZ, compared to maybe what you're trying to accomplish to see if we can do something, because you might be better off staying with who you already have. For instance, what do you use now for? And then I'm going to go into what are called NEPQ situation questions to help me and them find out what their real situation is. Now, notice that's an objection that most salespeople would just spit her out and it would be over. But see, did you notice what tone did I use? Well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. What tone did I use there? Just a normal, relaxed tone, right? I'm not getting defensive. Most salespeople get defensive and it triggers resistance. Now, it's important here that you have a 2-second pause right after you say, well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. You don't want to say, well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. We'd have to see monotone tone going to give you a different result. Well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. Now, when your prospect, here's what's going to happen. When your prospect sees, I have gone into boardrooms when I was in my sales career with Fortune 500 companies. And right when I walked in, hey, just give us your pitch. Tell us why should we go with you, man? We don't have a lot of time. I'm dead serious. Anybody ever been in a boardroom where they're acting like that? You know what I did? Well, I'm not quite sure that you guys should yet. We'd have to understand more about X and Y and Z, kind of the results you're getting from that compared to maybe what you're looking at, just to see if we can do anything good for you, because you guys might be better off staying with your vendor you have now. And the whole room was like, what? Because I'm detached. See, experts are attached. Salespeople that have small commission checks, they're needy. Do you see the difference in there? Now, let's analyze what I just did there. When I said just to see if we can help, because maybe you're better off staying with who you already have, what does that cause? What goes on in the prospect's mind? It's a disarming technique to get them to let their guard down. Now, do I know that we can help them? Yes. But do they know that in the first 2 minutes of a sales conversation, you have zero trust and credibility? No. So if I can't get them to let their guard down, there's no sale. My first job is to get them to let their guard down, and then I start to build a gap from where they are to where they want to be. Now, do you see the difference between those two approaches? Which one is going to get the prospect to let their guard down and feel comfortable to open up with you where you make more sales? Which one takes the pressure out of the room? I think we all know. Now, did you see my facial expressions? Well, I'm not quite sure that you should yet. Did you hear my tone? My body language sense. We teach all of that in our virtual training courses. I just gave you a small order. Now, Matt, should I give them a couple more examples?
I think 1 or 2 more. What do you guys think? We should just pack it up.
It all down?
Play golf.
Shut it all down already. It's getting late.
Down.
It's getting late. I need to watch the Netflix show. My favorite TV.
A Netflix show. You don't. You watch so little TV. You don't even know a show.
Oh, I don't know. What are we gonna do? All right, who in here cold calls? Type in cold call if you cold call. Now, do you ever, for those of you who cold call, or even if you call outbound leads, do you ever get this in the first 5 to maybe 20 seconds? Oh, I'm not interested in that. Do you ever get that? How many sales do you feel you lose because you can't get them to let their guard down and open up and have a two-way conversation? Now, what are some predictable words and phrases that most of you have been taught to say in the first 10 to 15 seconds? Would it be something like this? Hi, is Jane there? Hey, Jane, yeah, it's James Miller. I'm with XYZ company. Hey, listen, the reason why I called you was, or hi, Jane, it's Jane Miller with XYZ company. Hey, the reason why I called you was blah, 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 blah. Do you have 2 minutes so I can talk to you about XYZ? Not interested. Is that what typically happens? My name is, I'm with, the reason why I called was. And your trainer says sales is a numbers game. Well, that's why, because you're triggering sales resistance. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you an industry-specific example. Type in me if you want an industry-specific example where I'm going to show you something pretty interesting here. Now, in this example, let's say that you're a real estate investor and you're calling distressed properties, okay? Would something like this be familiar? Hi, yeah, my name is John. I'm a real estate expert for Big Wins Real Estate Community. Hey, the reason why I called you was I was calling to see if you'd consider an offer on your property where we can buy it for you and cash in 30 days. No, I'm not interested in selling the home. That type of approach is going to get 1%, 2% maybe if you're lucky, that answers, that have a conversation with you, that they're just like the lay down sales. But when you learn NEPQ, we're just giving you hors d'oeuvres right now. We're first going to show you how to agree with them. And this is called an NEPQ diffusing the questions. Now, like I said, I'm going to give you the industry specific example. In this example, real estate investor, you call distressed properties. You try to get homeowners to sell their home to your company, who buys the home, flips them for a profit, wholesales them, holds them short-term, long-term. There's different things. Prospects might have lost a job. They can't afford the payment, going through a divorce. landlord has tenants not paying. They want to get rid of the headache, move to Florida to be with their grandkids. There could be many different problems that you solve. Real estate is actually the second largest industry we train in the world, man. I don't know if you know that now. Sam just looked that up. That's residential agents that sell properties, commercial agents, and investors that call distressed properties.
Well,
Now,
there's a lot of them out there.
I
Some
know a
help.
lot of them out there. Now we teach all this, how to tweak all this stuff for your industry and more in our NEPQ 3.0 Pro training, and especially our advanced inner circle virtual and group training programs for our clients. Now, would you, if I said this, would you believe me if I showed you a cold calling script for this industry that we've written that's according to our clients, not us, because who cares about what we think, not grandma, according to our clients, is getting them a 71% book appointment ratio. That means they talk to 10 prospects that answer, 7 out of 10 after 10 minutes are booking an appointment with them. Anybody get that results? Now, what I'm showing, that's a little bit different, right? Now, anyone else had that kind of result with the way you've been trained to cold call? Bagels, right? Now, for our VIP members, we gave you a generic cold call script. That was generic. It's not industry specific. I just want to reference that. We show you all the tweaks in our virtual training portals for our clients. All right. So I want to make sure you understand that. Now, luckily for some of you, you're going to have a chance to be a client if you want to learn these, how to apply it to your industry. Okay. Now, when you guys cold call in that industry, so let's say you're in that industry. We even teach real estate agents to call MSL listings like this. We have them go to the county and print off the local county tax records of the homes they're calling. Now, if you're in this industry, I want you to do this. You have to be authentic. It has to be authentic. Okay. Okay. You have to do this. All right. I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you a pattern interrupt right now. So I want you to pay attention to my tone. I want you to pay attention to my facial expressions and how the sounds of me rustling the paper sounds. Okay. Because I'm going to show you how to pattern interrupt on a cold call. If I can interrupt their pattern of what they expect, prospects engage. If I sound like everybody else, what do? Fight or flight mode. Okay, you ready? I'm just going to do this on my own. Let's see how my tone sounds. Hey, is this John? John. Yeah. Hey, it's Jeremy. Jeremy Miner, XYZ company. I'm holding a copy of your property tax records on your Willow Lane home there in Savannah, and I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Oh, sure. Yeah. What's going on? Well, I'm not even sure if it makes sense for us to talk. Leah, put that slide back up there, would you?
Sorry, I had technical difficulties. I'm back.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, that VIP upgrade that you guys may possibly want, I just put a link in the chat. You know what I mean, that we're talking about. So some
Leah,
of those
can you put that
extra
slide
little.
back up there, Leah?
Right.
I want them to be able to write this down. Okay. Now it's industry specific, but I still want them to see it. Yeah. Is this Sally? Oh, hey, yeah, Sally. It's just John with XYZ company. I'm holding a copy of your property tax records there on your 75 Willow Lane home there in Savannah. And I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Now, what did I just do there? Why would I rustle the papers? Why would I sound confused? Because it's a pattern interrupt. You know what they're going to say? Oh, yeah, sure. Or who is this again? Or what's this all about? Or how did you get my property tax records? And then you're going to do this. Well, and I'm not even sure if it makes sense for us to talk. I represent a group of buyers. They're purchasing, I think it's like 5 or I want to say maybe even 6 homes in that 4-block area where your Willow Lane home's at. And after they had me look at your tax records, they had me call you to see if you would be, I guess, opposed to possibly get an offer on the property. Would you be opposed to talk about that? Now, let's go back. Go back to that next one. You know what they're going to say? Sure. I'm not opposed. Or what do you have in mind? Okay, Leah, go back again. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to show this to you guys again. I want you to pay attention to my tone. I want you to pay to every little thing I'm doing. It all adds up to either getting them engaged or fight or flight mode. Notice the first part. Hey, is this John? Oh, hey, John, it's Jeremy Miller, XYZ. I'm holding a copy of your property tax records on your 75 Willow Lane home there in Savannah. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Sure. Yeah. What's going on? Who are you getting? Well, I've got your property tax records on your home now. I'm not even sure it would even make sense for us to talk. I represent a group of buyers who are they're buying like 5 or I think it might even be 6 properties in that 4-block area where your home's at. And they had me go through like your tax records, and they asked me to call you to see if you guys would be opposed to possibly getting an offer on the property. Would you be opposed to talk about that? Now, I could say, would it be a crazy idea to talk about an offer? Or would it be completely unrealistic to talk about an offer? You know what they're going to say? No, I'm not opposed. No, I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, it's not unrealistic. Every time when you say, would you be opposed? Or would it be completely unrealistic? You don't say unrealistic, you say completely unrealistic. Or I would say, would it be a crazy idea to talk about an offer? Well, I mean, it's not crazy. We're not really interested in selling it, but I can hear what you have to say. That's what you're going to trigger. Now, you want me to break down slide by slide everything I just did there? Now, why would I say in this example, hey, Sally, yeah, it's just Jeremy with XYZ Company. What type of tone did that sound like? Like they should already be familiar with me. I said, yeah, it's just me. I'm just like, yeah, it's just Uncle Joe, right? In that context, the word just implies they should already be familiar with you. You wouldn't use just in other context, but in that it implies familiarity, okay? Now, why would I be shuffling papers? Yeah, I'm holding a copy of your property tax records there on the 75 Willow Lane in Savannah. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. No one will ever hang up with you when you're shuffling papers talking about property tax records for that space. They just won't. It's a massive pattern interrupt. It triggers cure. It's impossible. We teach people in that industry to leave voice messages, 90% call back. You get their property tax records. See what we're doing there? Now, why would I shuffle the papers? Why would I act confused? Why would I slow down? Why not just talk fast and try to get everything out of my mouth and hope and pray that they're going to magically, I said something that's going to cause them to want to buy. See, that's what average salespeople do. I have to interrupt their pattern. Now, why would I then say, well, and I'm not even sure it makes sense for us to talk. Why would I push them away there? See, I kind of push them away by saying, well, and I'm not even sure if it makes sense for us to talk. I have to disarm them, right? See how I triggered curiosity when I said, well, I'm not even sure if it makes sense for us to. I want to push them away a little bit to get them to what? Pull me back in. Why would I say, are you opposed? Why would I say, are you opposed rather than saying, would you be open? Somebody tell me in the chat. Why would I say, are you opposed rather than would you be open? Because what is the brain on a cold call wired to say? The word no. It's hard for a human being to say, yes, I'm opposed. They already want to say no. So you're going to hear 7 or 8 out of 10 times, no, I'm not opposed. What do you have in mind? And now you're in a two-way conversation that you didn't even have to buy the lead. You guys with me? All right, I'm going to show you one more here, baby. So how do you get your prospect to open it? Now, type in me if you ever have, we're just warming up. Tomorrow, you're going to start getting the drinks. We gave you a little bit of the appetizers today. Tomorrow comes the cocktails. Wednesday, the meal. Friday, Saturday, the dessert, baby. We always structure it this way. Okay, type in me if you've ever had like A-type personalities you struggle with. Type in me if you struggle selling to A-type personalities. Now, what I mean by that, I don't mean like they're bad or anything, but they just have a hardcore personality and it's hard for you to ever get them to open up. So if that's you, type in like me, like I struggle with business owners, A-types, and you can tell when you ask questions that they're just kind of holding their real problems to their chest and they're staying very surface level with you. Okay, and if they stay surface level, what type of objection are you going to get at the end? Let me think it over. I'll get back to you. Need to keep looking around, do more research. Who wants to prevent this objection from happening and start getting your prospects to open up? Type in me if that is you. Oh, my Wi-Fi is disconnected. Type in me if that's you, if you want to learn how to get the prospect to open up so you do not lose those sales that you could be making. All right, here's what you're going to do. This is an example of what's called an NEPQ problem awareness question. All right. So you're going to lean in. Let's say I'm halfway through the conversation. They're just not opening up to me. You want to lower your voice and you're like, hey, can I ask you something, Matt?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I mean, this is off the record, just so you know, but between you and I, what's what's the real reason why you might possibly be looking for a higher quality lead? If I sold, let's say, branding or lead generation. Now, what did my tone sound like? Did you hear my tone? Did you see how I leaned in, lowered the tone? Can I ask you something? Now, this is off the record. What's the real reason why you might be looking? Okay, you'll see like, well, it's this. I'm telling you, disarming technique works like crazy. You want me to give you a couple more? Here's another NEPQ problem awareness question. Same thing. Let's say they're just not opening up. Okay. Can I ask you something?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I'm not that cool. And this is off the record, but between you and me, what's the main challenge you guys are having down there? Or I could say it like this. Between you and I and, off the record, what's really going on over there that's caused you guys to look at possibly changing vendors? If you sold B2B, you'd use vendors rather than companies. See how I'm lowering my voice? I'm putting my hand in my chest. And what type of tone am I using? A concern tone. Hey, John, can I ask you something? Okay, now this is off the record. What's the main reason why you might be looking for a newer car rather than just keep driving the Honda? If you sold cars, see, I can do this all day for any industry. You want me to give you another one? Okay, all right. Now, hey, let's say that you have a hard time overcoming the I want to think it over concern, which is not a real concern. We're going to show you how to do it tomorrow, but I'm going to give you a Band-Aid. If you show up tomorrow, we're actually going to show you some questions to ask to help prevent that from even happening. If you're on tomorrow, because it's going to be all about objections. Can I ask you something? Yeah, sure, go ahead. Now, this is off the record, but what's really holding you back from moving forward so you can, and then you're going to repeat back what they said they wanted. What's really holding you back from moving forward so you can get your debt paid off? If I was doing a refi or something. See, I could sound that in there. Now, concern tone. Did you notice I put my hand on my chest when I lean in and I said, what does that do? It's a technique that communicates what? That you are genuinely concerned for them. Now, if the prospect feels you are genuinely concerned for them, does that build trust? Gonna go out on a limb and say it probably does. All right. Now, as we wrap up here, I'm going to show you one more thing here. I saved a little good little thing here at the end, because we're going to show you a ton more of the NEPQ sales structure and questions tomorrow. Like I said, we gave you like 7, 8, 9, 10 different versions here. These were little appetizers today. But what we're doing here is we're starting to show you how to humanize the conversation from the very first words out of your mouth to the end of the transaction. And that's how you create trust and you differentiate yourself from your competitors at the same time. Matt, what are your thoughts? When you were a client 4 years ago, it seems so weird you're even a client. We're like brothers now, but when you started learning how to be like a human on sales interactions, like what happened? Like what did your prospects do?
I mean, you start having a lot less combative conversations, right?
Yeah.
So, like people start to open up, they start realizing that you're asking questions to make sure that you can help,
Yeah.
because not every, product and service, it solves every problem for everybody. And so the whole point is to go like, let me understand your full set of problems so that when I, as the trusted advisor, present you with a solution, it's the right one. And you've really cracked it when they ask you for advice and they go, like, what would you do?
And somebody said here, Mila, I find this tone needy, borderline begging, totally lacking confidence. Such conversations don't last longer than 1 minute with me, but people are different. I mean, Mila, I'm just going to go out on a limb. How much money do you make per month the way you sell? You made more than I did in 4 completely different industries. I don't know. Just going to go out on a limb there. See, neediness comes from sounding aggressive, because aggressive people are what? Needy. That's why they're aggressive. They need you. Okay. Detached people that are more unbiased and neutral.
Yep.
Other people look at them as more of an expert because they feel like you don't need them. So you might have been trained that you have to do all the work. You got to do all the convincing. You got to do all the persuading. You got to overcome their objections. And that's gotten you to what income? Exactly where you're at. Nothing more. We're going to start how to show you, if you want, you don't have to. We're going to show you how to get the prospect to do the work. We're going to show you how to get the prospect to sell themselves. We're going to get the prospect to overcome their own concerns to pull you in, because who has the problems? You are the prospect. The prospect, not you. So why are you qualifying to them by being needy and aggressive, enthusiastic? I'm not saying being boring. We're going to teach you how to come across more as an expert. Okay. Now we're going to train you a lot more on that tomorrow. I call that collective confidence. We're going to show you how to slow down your pace, have empathy in your voice in certain situations, and show them that you're there for them as opposed to yourself. You're going to see your prospects, they're just going to treat you differently. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example. We train a very large solar company in the United States. And they came to us, their cancellation rates, kind of like Matt, were like 50%. So meaning when they would make a sale, because the solar would get installed on average like 2 months later, half of the sales would cancel, meaning you don't get paid. And one of the things that we tweaked for them was simply something as basic as they were saying, like, here, we need you to sign the contract. Let's pull this slide up here, Leah. And we changed it to like, well, nobody wants to sign a contract, but they're okay with authorizing agreements. Leah, can you pull up the slide? Okay. So I might lean in and say, oh, let's say this is solar specific. Okay. So John, really the next step is we'll have you authorize the agreement. And that gives us permission to come out and do the site survey on the home to make sure it actually meets the program requirements, which it should from what you told me. So just go ahead and authorize the site survey agreement here. See, people are okay with authorizing agreements for the end result. People don't like to sign contracts. See, authorized agreement means the same thing, but it's far more neutral. It doesn't trigger sales resistance. Now, I hope this training was helpful for you today. We just, like I said, we give you some little hors d'oeuvres the first day, just warm you up. Tomorrow, the drinks come out, just gets better every day. Much, much more for the ones who show up tomorrow. It's going to be good. So remember, here's what we covered. 3 steps to get your prospects to view you as a trusted authority in their mind. We gave you an example, showed you the NPQ sales structure briefly. We showed you some different examples, how to use your tone. That sales structure going to give you far more detail. Problem finder, problem solver, not a product pusher. Second thing we showed you, asking the right questions at the right time, especially the right tone. And the third thing, how to use your tone to get the prospects to let their guard down, eliminate sales resistance, and engage with you. Matt, turn it over for you for a couple more minutes for our homework. We're going to wrap up.
All righty, guys. What did everyone think? Did you guys have a good time today? Did you learn something? Maybe you didn't.
They would have known.
Let us
all
know.
that, sure.
Let us know.
What would we be able to train them? They know everything backwards and forwards.
Everyone knows everything, said no one ever who was successful. All right. So now this wouldn't be training without a little bit of homework. All right. Would you guys be opposed to a little bit of extra training that you guys can do?
Completely unrealistic to have you do some homework to learn more. Would it be a crazy idea if you did homework so you could get better?
You've got to train to retain people. There's an old adage that we learned in the Army. It was train hard, fight easy. Right? Because if everything you do in training is difficult and all your role plays are super hard and you come in and you're working with people who are better than you and pushing you, then when you hop on a sales course, it's in slow motion. It's easy. It's simple. Right? Train hard, fight easy. But the homework for tonight, guys, you were going to go live in the Facebook group. So salesrevolution.pro, if you haven't gone in there.
Who's going to go live in the Facebook group?
Right? Go live.
Some of you didn't. Oh, Anthony said a lot of these, there was like 4,000 or 5,000 people that didn't even join the free Facebook group. And that's where we're putting the replays. So who didn't join the free Facebook group? Can you say me if you forgot to join the free Facebook group where we post the replays? If that's you, we're going to have somebody in the team post the free Facebook group. It's salesrevolution.pro. Hopefully you see it because there's everybody throw it in here. Go to salesrevolution.pro because I knew some of you would just forget. It's okay.
Jeremy, I guess between me and you, and I guess off the record, it's really holding you back from joining the Facebook group.
Yeah, what's holding you guys back from joining the Facebook group to get replays? They don't have to have the replays.
I don't have to. Could be trouble though.
Could be
trouble.
All right.
So how we talk some smack. All right. So what you guys are gonna do is you're gonna go live in the Facebook group, right? If you can't go live, just do a video on your phone and post it. If you don't have a video on your phone, get somebody else who has a phone next to you to get a video and post it on your behalf. All right. I don't want to hear excuses. doesn't exist. How do I is the new.
Go to Google. How do I go live on Facebook? Go to YouTube. How do I go live in a Facebook group? I promise you it's easy.
It says not available. Whatever. Just get it done. Get her done. All right. So you're going to go your number one biggest golden nugget takeaway. The reason why I want you to go on camera, guys, because I want you to go outside your comfort zone, right? What happens in the comfort zone, right? It's the mediocrity. It's where success goes to die. All right. So get outside of your comfort zone, go into the Facebook group, go live, do a video, do something, say what you learned today. Okay.
Yeah.
And then from there, we're going to be looking at all the analytics, guys. We know it. We're tech savvy, data, computers. It's inside the computer type stuff. Right. And so we are going to be looking at the analytics. And what we want to do is we want to find out who the most committed people, the few, the proud, the committed, the 5-day stayers. Let us know if you're going to be a 5-day stayer for the whole challenge, right? Because the last day, a little bit of special invite only for the people who have been super committed.
Special.
A little bit of special. Now we've had a lot of people, guys, come to us and say, guys, like, how do we get in these NEPQ training programs? I want to join NEPQ 2.0 foundations, right? I want to be able to sell more. I want Jeremy Miner to fix my sales. And it's like, okay, guys, that's fine.
I don't know. I mean, if they were clients, would we really be able to help them make more sales? I mean,
I don't know.
It must be the two parts on my hair.
They might be the one that it doesn't work for. They might be the one.
Just the
we'll
one
find
out of a billion.
Yeah.
All right. Find one.
Right. All right. So guys, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Jeremy. You can reach out to the guys with the admin tag. Okay. Who are on here. Okay. And we do have a bit of a special thing that we're going to be going over you in a couple of days time, an event only special. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
right.
we'll see.
You might want to stay for that.
We're gonna see if this crowd is like the one that's like the most like committed crowd. So you're gonna go live in the Facebook group. Biggest golden nugget, just the one biggest golden nugget you learned today, something you didn't know before today, or maybe you knew a little bit about it, but you got a much better clarification. Okay. Or now, if I've had people here because I was looking at my phone here on Messenger. Some people are hitting me up saying, "Hey, I'm already a client. I'm in NEPQ 2.0 foundations. How do I get more advanced training?" We do have something for you guys as well for, some special things for Advanced NEPQ Pro and Inner Circle. So
and you can hit up the account executives that helped you get into NEPQ program to begin with, right? And they can help sort you out. Okay. So what we're going to be going over tomorrow, guys.
Let's go over what we're going to cover tomorrow. Let's do it. We got slides for this.
The 3-step formula to get your prospects to overcome their own objections. Okay. You're going to walk away from tomorrow, guys, with a firm grasp. As to how to get progress to overcome. I want you guys, it's firm, right? So what I want you guys to do is have me in the chat if you're getting these objections. I want to think it over. I want to think it over. Right? Now let me ask you a question. Does it really benefit your prospects to think it over? Or are they just abdicating?
Do they really sit there for 2 weeks and think it over?
Nope.
No. We all know that.
Right? Exactly. They're just abdicating the responsibility, putting it off. Doesn't benefit anyone, right? We don't have the money for this, right? But they have an 85-inch plasma screen and an iPhone 15,
It's not like the money doesn't exist. See, money's there. It's just a priority of where they're currently spending that same money. You just haven't learned how to get them to feel like your solution is more of a priority. Tomorrow, we're going to show you how if you want.
You want a little trick? If you're ever selling B2C, get someone to bring up their Uber account and tell you they don't have the money, okay? Right. Okay. I don't have time. Get them to bring up the Screen Time app. Okay. All right. So can you just tell me how much this is going to cost?
Early in the conversation without any
Early in the conversation. That could be trouble. All right. Can you send me some more information? I saw negative reviews about your company. I'm too busy. Can you call me back later? I need an email quote. Send me references. Can you send me a proposal? I need to pray about it. I need to talk to my spouse, business partner, rabbi, priest, right? The neighbor who seems to know a lot about stocks. We got to talk to him about it.
The band down by the river,
Band down by the river, right? And many, many more objections. Okay. We're going to be learning that tomorrow. So make sure you guys are here. All right. Now, a reminder to all our VIPs, right? In about 18 minutes, we're going to be starting the VIPs on a different Zoom. You guys already have that. If you guys are not in the VIP, go to it now. Okay. Go to it now. If you guys want to see some real of the nitty gritty, the dirty, the nasty, right? The stuff that we couldn't possibly teach in front of this many people.
You're gonna be able to ask me and Matt any question. So if you have something that you have struggled with, we're just going to show you what to do. So you might want to get in there.
So some of the guys will be posting that now. Okay. All right. But we're going to be going over that. And don't forget the VIP is $47. And we're going to be going over a nice comprehensive.
$47. That's outrageous, Matt. Like $47
you guys need to go fund me
to learn how to sell more. You guys are crazy.
You guys are All right. So just a reminder, guys, the homework assignment go live in the Facebook group. Okay. We're going to be on at the same time mañana tomorrow.
Hey, some
Okay.
people are asking where the VIP link is. Probably in their email, right?
Yeah, it'll be in their email. I would say they might have even been sent like a Google invite, I would think.
You would have been a
But we'll make sure that an email goes out or something.
Yeah.
Make sure you check your spam, right? And go through spam and promote.